Hey, Doc.
Morning, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
So I appreciate you coming on, taking the time and kind of debriefing with us and really laying it out because I'm excited. I can't imagine how you feel.
It feels great. Yeah, no, I mean, it's been the virtue you need through this whole process is patience. That's for sure. And so the patience kind of takes the edge off the excitement, when it finally happens.
It's like finishing a marathon. You just want to go collapse down and drink some Gatorade or something.
That's right. That's right. And you've been doing doing the process for so long that when it's kind of over, and that step 8 or 9 is just sitting on your VA website, you're just like, oh, what's my next step? And you're like, no, there is no next step. You're like, oh, there's always a next step.
Oh, there truly is. It's like there's always the other thing you didn't know about, like the VA pulls stuff out of a hat and like, oh, by the way, we need to do things. But no, man, you reached it. So
yeah, no, thank you. And again, I just I'll say this throughout, but again, I appreciate the entire team's just consulting and advice and walking me through the whole process, because I wouldn't have known what I was doing. And so when I initially filed the claim, you guys walked me through the process and helped me out. And this process, every resource that the military gives you, the DoD, just Google searching and the open information out there, it's just not good enough. This human-to-human connection and talking to people who are experts on it.
I totally agree because, again, I never thought if you'd have told me 2 years ago that I would be helping people process VA claims, because I got out about a year and a half ago and I was like, anything military, anything VA, like, no, thank you. Like, it's just too inefficient and that kind of stuff. But I realized that, there is so much, I hate to use the word misinformation, but it's just a variety and scattered hodgepodge, whether it's on searching stuff on your own, other companies, the VA's guidance, just word of mouth, Reddit threads. And it's like, where's the standardization? And maybe that's just how my brain works, because anything that's, complicated and maybe even shady typically is shady, like there, and you got to take it from my end where I see, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of ratings, and it's scattered and it's all over the place. So, I'm a believer, like you said, the human touch of it, because, the reason why I'm good at this stuff is because I did it kind of unknowingly when I was a medical officer and, GMO, building big packages and thinking ahead about what can go wrong, right? Kind of the Murphy's Law approach, and never, putting all your eggs in one basket and, how is this going to be received mentality, right? Because I've argued with the service branches in the DoD and even the VA, because when I would do med boards back in the day, hundreds of those, nobody liked those from a provider standpoint because it's medical legal paperwork. But I noticed that a lot of people that had package submitted had no evidence, actual medical evidence behind it. And it doesn't mean that, oh, no evidence equals it doesn't exist, not real. It's just that's how these people frame everything, right? Yeah. So taking the time back then, even back in active duty, I would say, hey, listen to me. Like, I'm just some guy talking to you here as a physician, officer, but you shouldn't trust anybody like what I'm saying, but like, hear me out. Trust me for 3 to 6 months. Let's highlight and build evidence in all the categories that you have, but are not on paper. And then once we appropriately kind of cover our bases and build our case, then we submit and file. A lot of people, and I notice even in the VA claim world now that I look at competitors and just, our peers, they do kind of the opposite. It's like, let's get it out there and make people happy on the front end, submit real quick. But in the end, that just makes it the results worse. And, it actually makes it longer, because then you got to get into more appeals settings and just, it's complicated. So I'm one of those guys. It's like, I would rather prepare and do things right, even if it takes longer. So, again, this isn't really about me, but it's really about you and your experience. And, the goal of this conversation is to tell other people, right? Because we're, a newer, younger company, but we're very organic. And this came out, like I said, not just me, but all of us, trying to do things differently, not just for differentiation from other people, but because that's what we believe in, is doing things the right way. And again, the right way that we see it is more of that tactical approach and that personal honesty of, hey, this is going to be a battle. This is not guaranteed. There's nothing guaranteed with this process and in life. That's kind of how I live. But at the same time, it's always, it's under promising, but overperforming. And you're a great example, and you're in a, growing larger cohort every day of people that are getting awesome results with us. So really, can you just talk, what would you tell somebody who maybe came across our ads or word of mouth, Mill to Millions, right? Like it kind of has a, catchy name, like, oh, that seems like too good to be true, probably is mentality. And I respect that, because you should, when there's money involved, you should be have a high level of scrutiny with anything and people.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you tell somebody that maybe just heard the name and they're struggling with their situation?
Well, so, you guys are, so when you look at standard VA practices, they're like what the product that they're offering, or the consulting that they're giving you, is the process and the advice. And those are all good. So you can go online and you can see, hey, this is how the system works. This is how the system's designed. And we can walk you through the process. That's kind of the easy step. And that's what I think most people, when they're starting out, are most afraid of, or most uncertain of, I should say, in terms of, what's going on. Where Mill to Millions really comes in, and the product I think you guys really offer is the confidence. It's the confidence to say, hey, I think, going through this process, it's giving me the faith in myself that, hey, I do have these conditions, I do, my service related experiences, those are real, and you can't get that by just reading a handbook or by attending like the 30 to 60 person seminar that when you're out processing. It's a personalized touch, and you call that personal honesty. And really that just leads to the confidence that's necessary to go through the process.
Right. And I find my job, again, it is hard in that it is, as we grow with the volume and just the amount of work behind each case, because every case is different, but there are patterns. But, as we grow, that my job is actually easy, because I just tell people the truth, how I see it.
That's right.
I build plans with people, with a partnership. And I think that's where, I love what we do. And I think that it is more and more rare, because it's not Control C, Control V templatized, hand you some pre-made thing and think it's an easy button, right? It's, hey, you have this role in obtaining this evidence for this, and explaining the whys behind it, right? Is that independent medical opinions and reviews and DBQs, and the list goes on. You have a role in this, and anything good that is high value of financial interests for people, you need to have a stake in it, because there's no interest like self-interest. And with a partnership of we are different than a VSO, right? It's not like, oh, I pay you money and then you just handle it and it's done.
Right.
And that is the typical model from what I see when I look at the industry. And I think we have a different approach in that, hey, we want you to take control of your claim, and we're going to guide you and be right, left seat, right seat with this thing until, you are going to be the one to make sure that it's accurate with us, right? Because even well-intentioned people, VSOs or other companies or medical providers or whoever, the VA itself, may have very, good intentions, but they don't know the details.
Right.
How do you guarantee? And that's what got me into this whole realm when I did my claim, and I went to a VSO for the same reason. As I was unsure that I understood the clicks to make sure this thing processed, and I wouldn't get auto denied because I missed one checkbox for some form that I don't even know exists. You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And so it funnels 95% of people into, the trust the process thing. And we know that from the military, like typically that's not in your favor. So, really understanding that, empowering our clients with our help to make sure that when you submit a claim, for damn sure that everything that you are wanting to claim is actually transferred into the claim. And if you go to a VSO or other people and you don't see it, you don't really know. You're trusting more. Again, trust is something that is earned, but also you should never trust anybody with something that's so vitally important to you all. So can you give me a brief background about when you came to us, what was your situation, and what did we actually do for you objectively?
Well, I was referred to by a buddy of mine who got out. He went to the reserves, but he was on the fence. And so he referred me to Cole and Joe. I think Joe first. I think he gave me just his personal number. So I talked for about 4 to 6 weeks. We're just going back and forth, mainly texts and phone calls. of just because I think that was fairly early when the company was
right. Because I didn't even come on board until about March of last year. And, that
yeah
really a feeling everybody out and what are we and what is our,
yeah
so, I think we talked in July from when I look at our records, like when we actually formally made a plan together. So yeah, that was in its infancy of Mill-to-Millions.
yeah. And that was just great because I just had no idea. And again, I still had, and this was our initial conversation, which I'll get to in a second. But I was still that like gung ho, nothing hurts me. I'm not hurt. I'm 100. I'm fine. Kind of mentality. And Joe and Cole just walked me through the process and the potential. And again, I just really had no idea. You get the briefings, you get the cookie cutter, check the block things. But they really walk me through what they do. And this was back when, they had the handbook that they provided me, and that was a great product. Read through that.
The Road to 100 book.
That's right. So that was a good that was just a good initial read. It doesn't give you the, hey, here's all the answers to the test. It's just, hey,
it's an appetizer,
right? And read a third party pamphlet or handbook that's going to give you a different perspective. That's really what the value of that was. And really that was the value of their consulting and their advice in the first place, was here's this other perspective,
right,
by people who are helping out veterans. And that's great.
And then the change was that the Road to 100 was something that Cole had developed over time prior to even me getting on board with them, and now very much fully integrated as like the chief medical officer. We've taken that idea and my own ideas and our collective organizational ideas, and we've expanded that into different products. We've got the school platform where we share a lot of the same concepts, not just, hey, here's the Road to 100, but it's an evolving working model for people, because the VA is an adapting model as well, maybe not in our favor in certain categories. So it's really about and again, like, I've got an intro kind of philosophy letter I send to people now that you didn't get because you were already down the pipeline. You didn't need it. But it's really, the full synthesis of philosophy behind it, but then the action plan potentially. Like, where are the VA claims that they are more generous and honest with, right? And as an orthopedic surgeon, I find musculoskeletal to be a terribly dishonest category. I feel it's an underrated category. However, if that's the hill people want to die on, we're not going to be successful as often, right? So really the idea of expanding our breadth of claims with reality, with common things that people have that have not, maybe don't consider it as my primary disability, but that's how we build that base. So I'll start interrupting.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And again, that just having that third, that perspective from your team went just so far, especially in my particular case, because I do try, naively, I trusted the system. Like, you're going to click the boxes, you're going to submit your conditions. They're going to look at your medical history, and the process will just work. Of course, no, that's not how that's not how it works. And again, in hindsight, that would have been a terrible strategy to do. I would have ended up with 20% on like 2 conditions, and I would have been happy with that in my my ignorance of the whole process. But just having a consultant to talk to, a consultant team, just to talk the process through, so that you're not just going on the VA website, clicking submit, and then watching the steps just kind of turn and burn. That was just so long. And then again, our initial consult, I didn't know what to expect from it, but it was just a conversation about just the system. It wasn't a conversation about my specific conditions and whatnot. And the same with Cole and Joe too. It was just building that relationship, and that relationship allowed the rest of the process to really, really become fruitful later, because we kind of understood each other and understood each other's backgrounds and motivations in terms of, hey, yeah, like this is my experience, this is my history, and so I think that went a long way.
Absolutely. So, kind of give us the brief. What was your current percentage when you came to us? What were the big ticket? How did you get to 100? Like what were the objective steps that got you to 100?
Yeah. So we started, like I said, I filed the initial claim February of 24. And so before that was when, and I don't know if you're still doing this, I'm sure your system is developed and processed or progressed rather. But I filled out the Word document, or I received the Word doc. I gave him a brief history of my medical conditions, and then he gave me the what you should get from the VA. That was beneficial. So that happened in about early February. I filed the claim in February, and then I did the various appointments that they called me in for. I think I did a couple for muscular skeleton, a couple and a lab test. And then just like Cole predicted, and this was my experience, is you hear nothing. You're in step 3 for months and months, and you hear from the third party. We use Optum. That was my particular one. You kind of hear nothing. You see the DBQs get submitted on the website, but you're still stuck in step 3. Mm-hmm. And then I remember we got back from vacation, my wife and family and I, and to go check the mail, and there's a giant check, and that was it. Like, that's how I found out. It was just this giant check from the government, paper check. And I was like, what is this?
Is it a scam? Yeah.
This is a scam. This is one of those like stupid mortgage things where it's like, hey, pay out your equity. This is not a real
HELOC, your HELOC check, right?
Exactly. But I looked through it. I was like, no, this is legit. And then I think a day or two later, you get the letter. And so 90% right off the bat, which was way higher than I thought I would get at the end. And so I looked through the letter. So I think, I should have brought the numbers, but I think I had a dozen total conditions that I submitted. And that was about half of them were adjudicated there. And so I didn't expect that. And I really, I don't think Cole or Joe saw that coming either, or you, was that I was going to get half of them adjudicated and then the other half remaining. And they adjudicated those half. That was weird to me. I thought they'd do it just all at once.
It is a strange process, and I can say there is no rhyme or reason how they selectively adjudicate it in the affirmative, deny it flat out, or they defer certain things, right? And I have seen such a scattering of scenarios that, and I like to predict what happens with certain packages, right? If it has this, this, and this, I can expect this output result. And that is not really the case most of the time with the VA, even now, with, trying to be more intelligent about how we, make it easier and more streamlined for getting quicker results, but also good results, because I would rather take longer than, and get good results than the opposite. So we got you to 90 with the first punch.
Yeah, that's right.
What I try to do when people come in just in your situation, even still, it's like your first initial claim is your chance to really set the wide cast net, the shotgun blast approach metaphor, where, you've got to put it on the table, because once you go through the initial claim process, it opens up so many doors for secondary connections. If you get service connected even at 0% for something, it opens up doors for other things, right? And then the supplemental world, where now we're starting to go for increases or, quasi appeals through supplemental claims or deferred claims. So, it's really a different kind of strategy, right? Like, it's like a starting pitcher versus a relief pitcher. We come up with a starting pitcher that throws 6 pitches and, is real, accurate with a bunch of different things and has that longevity, kind of a broad type pitcher. But then when it gets down to the 8th, 9th inning, you bring in the closer who does gas, right? And so that's kind of how we like to approach it, because then, we really get targeted and we're throwing 102 mile per hour heat with the things that are actually going to win, right? And so that's why getting that real broad first result catch net is really important. And that's, you're a perfect example of that, of it playing out how we would hope and expect.
Absolutely.
And so what was then the next moves after we got to 90? What happened from 90 to 100?
Well, and I mean, really bad. So to your point too, backing up putting all the long list, taking the time, in only a couple of weeks, taking the time to really make sure that you put everything in that initial initial claim. Because I think our strategy is like, I don't know, I don't think Tim's going to get to 100, but we're going to put what he thinks, and and then I was advised, hey, maybe this, maybe that, add this, that, and so that was really good doing it initially, and then. I mean, my strategy, absolutely. I thought we were going to be, at this point in time, we were going to be appealing. We were going to be seeking more. We were going to be saying, hey, I got 0% on these issues. Let's appeal that and try and get a higher percentage and try and get across the finish line that way. I really thought that was the position we were going to be in. But yeah, it just worked out because of that because we did the work early on at that initial claim. And again, the conversations with you and the team of, hey, have confidence to put these things, like, you're gonna meet with a third party. One thing I didn't anticipate was the amount of medical appointments that I'd have with the third party contractors and getting to tell my story to them. I didn't really anticipate that was going to be so robust. So that was really good, and either through your team or the VA provided contractors.
Right, and that's that initial claim scenario, and that's why I think there's a lot of, again, misinformation or just general. It's inconvenient, so therefore there's a bias to pretend it doesn't exist.
Sure,
initial claims have to go through the VA's controlled process, and then once you get through that, with a bunch of CMP exams and their cronies, right? Higher, it may or may not be in your favor, but then once you get through that, then it's a different game, because then it's, hey, we can tactically build a little more evidence in one spot or another, and then we can independently produce documents to support you on the back end of that supplementary side. And I think that's where I consider myself kind of both the starting pitcher and the closer, right? Because there's sometimes I have to tell people, it's like, yes, just because I can do something right now, you've got to trust me that we're saving that action until it's the most effective. Because, like, again, if you come in and just, some people have the expectation of, I will get a nexus letter for each condition and right? There's no reason for that. And it actually loses its effectiveness in an appeal or a supplemental or a secondary type claim. So we try to reserve that for when it matters, right? Not to draw people out. And we don't even structure our, company's revenue streams in that way. So we really have no bias to it other than we want the success, right? Because, if you write a nexus letter for everything on the front end, well, what do you do if they deny it because they may not read it in an initial claim situation, right? Or if, you want a DBQ for something that we can handle, independently, whether it be behavioral health, migraines, GERD, the list goes on and on. We don't want to muddy the water because the VA will use their own system the first time through. Now, again, you got a very good result, but let's say instead of the 90, you got to 50. We would have stepped in and said, okay, now the gloves are off. Now we can bring it into our realm, because that's why we want those ratings decision letter, because they almost trap themselves in inaccuracies and just, wrong decisions. And I hate to say, fraud, but, at some point when you see the pattern over and over again, you're like, how in the world with this document and what was said? And, they don't even really let you see the CMP exams or the DBQs easily. And that, they kind of hide them, and that's shady to begin with. We catch them in their own trap. And then we come in and, with the medical legal angle that I provide and we provide as a team, it's lights out. It's like stepping into the ring with somebody that knows how to box or somebody that's just a alleyway scrapper, right?
Yeah.
So I wait for that opportunity for them to give me you guys to give me an RDL where they run their mouth too much and they step out of their comfort zone and their power, and then now we can finish it. And so that's
I see. Yeah. So I got lucky in terms of I didn't really have to.
Exactly. And, but that's the thing is that, there's cases like yours, where, we got, and lucky, yes, but also like you said, like strategically lucky, right? Because again,
Sure.
It's hard to tell.
We made our own luck.
Exactly. Right. Through the prep. But, sometimes people in your exact situation will get an unfavorable first hit with the VA, and they'll be at 50% or 60%, which is, again, if you did it on your own, you go, that's pretty good. I'm getting $1,000 a month. You're missing out on not just the money, but the benefits packages down the line. But that's when it's like, I am always ready. And I think one of the biggest features that we offer, is that continued membership without having to re-ante up with somebody, because that's what a lot of the other law firms do, right? The other competition is they want, okay, well, yeah, that was the cost for this kind of a la carte first claim. Well, now you need to pay another $2,000 so we can get the next thing through. And when I came on board, they never did. Cole and Joe had no intention or ever did that, but we have to fight the urge to ever live that model, because we're part of the community, and we've all been through this system and have VA ratings ourselves. So we really, our ethos is practicing what we preach. And, we're not, perfect individuals. Obviously we want the company to succeed and, make a lot of money so we can grow, but also we will never sacrifice the ethos of, taking care of our people and treating them like we want to be treated, because we understand it. We are those people, we're not
absolutely,
subcontracted entities that some, very, rich and wealthy law firm is throwing money at subcontracting this work because it's profitable. It's the opposite. Very organic and grassroots in how we do it. And so I'm proud of it. And, I love when I hear, when we have our internal private communications about people that get ratings back and successes, I love it. It's so reaffirming of what we do, because again, when you talk to hundreds of people, it's like, well, all these balls are rolling in all these different directions. It's like, thank God, it's like it came back and it's what it should be. And, I love what I do, because again, I get to be myself. I get to, talk to people like you, make a difference, and also, pay my bills and, do this as a career, which is as a veteran myself, if I had not done my VA claim and had that freedom for a few months just to like exhale and not have to rush into moving again, finding employment as an orthopedic surgeon resident, which is not the most lucrative intermediate career choice for, 100-hour weeks making $50,000 a year. If I hadn't had that opportunity myself, I never would be doing this. So, it plays into that butterfly effect of doing what's right and what you're good at and helping people. And, as a physician, like I like helping people, whether I'm fixing a femur or, reducing a dislocated ankle. But really, in addition to that stuff, which I put on pause for a minute for this, I'm an expert at this stuff, which is kind of nerdy and different. And, from a satellite office in my house, like, when I tell people what I do, it kind of like, what are you doing? Why are you not in the operating room? Go like, there's this awesome company that we have started and that we are building that brings me joy in cases like this. So I appreciate all the trust that you put in us and me. And, again, I try to always explain to people, even on the front end of, why we want to do things. And it's not a one size fits all situation, but there's patterns with the VA. And, trust building is important, because in the end, kind of like we started this conversation, it's about individual relationships. I believe that. I think about, not only building trust, but then when things don't go perfectly and easily, are you talking to a call center, or are you talking to me? Are you talking to Dev or Devin or Joe or Cole or CJ or Josh? I mean, these are our people, and we have a great team, and we're very selective with who we bring on, because we care about keeping that, authenticity and no BS kind of approach to this.
Well, that worked out flawlessly. That was my experience. This was a people-centric process that your team pushed through. And I can't tell you the value of that. That made this whole process just fantastic. So I enjoyed working with your entire team, through. Unfortunately, it was like, touch points every month or so. But it was a long process, and you guys were there every step of the way. And again, going back to, the relationship gave me the confidence to believe in the system, believe in the process. And again, that led to the result, not the other way around.
Absolutely, my
Yeah.
friend. And, I appreciate you taking the time today to talk and, share so we can, get the word out in a real, again, an organic way that is not scripted, that
Yeah.
is how we roll. But, my charge to you now is take this opportunity and this financial safety net and these benefit opportunities and now your knowledge of this system and help people. Whatever you do, be the best father you can be, spouse you can be, entrepreneur you can be, business owner, use that with that butterfly effect. Help when someone is struggling. It doesn't have to be, oh, refer them to me. It's not about that. It's about doing what's right and helping people with what you know. And that's how I think we make our community a better place. And we help a lot of people because really, when you have someone who is struggling, they lose hope in whatever that thing is. And I'm a believer, nothing against, suicide awareness with bracelets in our community. That's nice to raise money, but how do you really help people is you give them hope with something for them, right?
Right.
Because most of the trouble that happens in our community is because people get in financial trouble, marital trouble, legal trouble. They don't see a way out. And I'm a big believer that these benefits that we all have earned and are there, find those people and just help them one way or another, even if it's just talking to them or, informally guiding them or just, being there to help them out and let them know like they're not alone, because that's the truth is, I've been there personally and we've all struggled, and most of us struggle quietly until it explodes. And, that's one of the things I love about what we do. Again, we don't sell bracelets and that stuff, but if we can bring real action and awareness through helping our people in our community, whether they were Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Special Ops, or infantry, it doesn't matter, right? Or they were a chef, we have a responsibility as veterans who have gone through, whether you're an officer or enlisted. I happen to be an officer, but our job is to take care of our own. And that doesn't end when you separate or retire. And, I'm real proud of our community and our network because now, you're a part of that, especially now that you've gotten through it, even when you sign up. But it's our job to make sure that we are looking on a swivel for our people and our friends who are struggling. And, that's how I want to help people through this job, because this is an action that we can actually take to make our community better.
Well, challenge accepted. And again, that happens naturally just based on being part of your community, in walking through this and going through, absolutely, and I want to help, now that I'm on, I've always wanted to help, and I continue to help. The veteran community out Fort Carson is growing because everyone retires out of here, or gets out in lovely Colorado Springs. And so it's fantastic to just see my former peers and friends just join the community. So absolutely, I will do my part and spread the love. And again, I want to say how thankful I am to your entire team, and not for the 100%. The 100%, that was great. It was just treating me, building that relationship, welcoming me to that community. That's what I'm really, really grateful for.
You're very welcome, and a privilege to work with you. And I hope you don't stay a stranger to me. This morning I opened my phone up, and we don't have an ongoing conversation, but my old CO texted me like, "Hey, how's it going, Doc?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, I'll tell you." And so maybe that's a new line of just keeping our people tight and helping where we can. And again, it was my privilege to work on your case. And again, I wish you the best, most prosperous future in all your endeavors and what you do. So keep me posted.
Well, again, thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it. And again, this is not goodbye. So I hope to stay involved.
All right, my friend. Take care. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, Doc. Appreciate it.